Hey, I'm Chance on the Sodium Halogen team. Today, thinking out loud about CSS. And with CSS, our designers spend so much time about the design system that they create. We need to be surfacing that to our development team. So that's the hole that I've found that we need to fill. And we have done we've done styles differently in the past than how we're doing them now. And it's basically what React.js had us rethink about. How do we do styles in React.js that it was as if it was any different than just having a CSS file? But it did open up the door to think how it could be different. And then we see things like CSS modules and styled components specific to React. And that just surfaced a new way of doing things that had no boundaries, and there was no system that we were creating to create the applications quickly so that styles was no longer a real concern and we can really deal with solving the problem. And I think as we're building our apps in React and Blazor, this post was really a journal of what I was finding of how CSS looked like in 2021. And with our designers creating a system that our development team could follow as well, I want to create some kind of a UI library tool that we would have as a boilerplate for each new project. And this is pretty common. This is building a system. But what I want to make sure we're doing is also, as we have some base styles, we also have those styles a place to put these elements that we've already created and new elements for each customer. We create a copy of this boilerplate, pull it into the project, but as we're creating new elements, we would use Storybook or Fractal or Pattern Lab, and we basically have each of those elements in isolation and style those. And so that's what I feel like we're missing. We're going to call ours periodic and basically taking our boilerplate, calling it periodic, but our design team needs to codify what our designers' systems are. And with CSS, I think we've just moved away from our roots, is the vanilla CSS way of styling our applications. React seemed very inline, and especially with Tailwind, whether we're using a JavaScript object or using Tailwind classes, it was very inline style-like. There was no formula to how we're doing our styles if we used CSS modules or styled components. It felt like our JavaScript was being infused with business logic. Our style components, our CSS or styles were being infused with business logic. And it was great to not have to name our classes. I just think we put too much thought into what the classes might be, and we just struggled with doing that well. So let's come back. Let's figure out what Brad Frost is mentioning. And he mentions in this post here, in this actually a talk he did, was what happened to the trusty global style sheet. It's a style sheet that can be used across many applications and leaves less room for error by the teams. What's it called? It's always called that. If we have two applications and they both use the same global style sheet, it's really easy to style them. So we're excited about this. This is helping us have a formula for creating styles and focus on the problem and not all the tooling that would come with. Like, how do we pass a prop to a style component again? And I don't know. It shouldn't matter. Just whether the class exists or not would give it the style it needs to have. So the other part that the research showed was I want to know how we work well with a designer. And so Dan Mall and Brad Frost, got a spelling I need to fix. They came together and they showed that workflow of work in almost like pairing, as you would in pair coding, but you just take the knowledge and share it over time, not all the time as design up front and then development comes after. So it's just a shame that, as Brad Frost says, that a ton of work goes into some static designs, that all of that thought is washed away when it's translated into code. And instead, I want to work well with the developer and the designer so that we are translating that information into the code that the designers thought so much about. So we looked into Pattern Lab, Storybook, and Fractal, and we've chosen Storybook as our way of creating this library, it's this boilerplate, but we'll use that as a way to create the new elements for each application, and I'll show what we have so far. But this is what we're choosing. I'd like to have some conversations, throw some comments out, and want to improve this over time. So that's what we're thinking about in Sodium Halogen and wanted to share it. That's us thinking out loud. See you later. Bye.